Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole Oman.
And I'm Ryan Oman.
And together we are the
Empowering Omens with the Golden Collective. And today is Spirit Sunday, the final Spirit Sunday of our 7-week adventure, journey, cycle, work, all the
bridge,
things.
All the things.
Yes, we are here. We made it.
Yay!
Thank you for coming along with us. And wow. What a journey it has been.
It has been. And I think more than anything, because I don't know what you guys been going through, and I don't know how often you tuned in, but we did them every day. We showed up for 7 weeks in a good mood. We showed up and did the work. In a bad mood,
we're never in a bad mood. What are you talking about? This is social media. Nobody's ever in a bad mood on social media.
There were days, honestly, that we hit such deep resistance. And in any creative process, you're going to hit resistance. When you're wanting to write a book, you're going to hit resistance. It's not going to come out the flow and the beauty as it does on other days. And then but in that resistance, I think, is where we learned the most, where we grew the most, where we evolved the most, where we changed the most, where we had to listen to each other, where we got into our vulnerability, where we got into the core of what the heck we were stuck in.
Yeah. I've actually become a connoisseur of resistance because I've spent a good 20 plus years of my life in the gym lifting weights. And that is literally called resistance training. And so what you're doing is you're making it difficult for yourself in the context of the gym, and this is our spiritual gym that we're in right now. And that's so that when you go out in the regular world, things are easier. So, I mean, that's essentially the idea.
And you're in health and in shape.
Yeah. The idea behind fitness itself is to do the work in the gym, make things really hard for yourself in the gym so that when you go to play your sport or do the physical activity you enjoy doing or just live life in general, it becomes easier in comparison. The contrast makes it feel easier.
And doing the chakra work or doing the inner work or being in the Golden Collective, we are constantly wanting to work out. And the reason why is because we want to keep ourselves in beautiful health. And we want to go into those higher states of consciousness, which we want to live with a happy median. Yes. Where, yes, we can dip into hard times and uncertainty. But once we kind of come out of that and we learn our lesson, we stay at that state of either happiness or bliss or joy or whatever that might be, right? And we want to stay in those higher frequencies because that's when we can manifest a little better. And we're in those lower frequencies. The reason why we climb is we're climbing a ladder, we're climbing a bridge. And so every week for the last 7 weeks, we've been climbing up this rainbow bridge. We've been climbing up, coming out of our old tendencies, coming out of our own resistances. And with that, you, especially doing this work, it's shown really, really clearly what was keeping you from being in those higher states.
Right. And
that control issue, that whatever that might be.
And you might be experiencing a little bit of altitude sickness. If anybody's ever climbed a mountain or done a really tall hike, and what we here in Colorado, they call it hiking a 14er, which means it's 14,000 feet of elevation or higher. And what happens is as you start to climb and you get to a certain height, you have to adjust to the altitude. And so, yeah, if you hang out at base camp, the reason why you're doing that is literally your body is adapting to the altitude. And primarily it's your red blood cells. Your red blood cells are what carry the oxygen from your heart to the other extremities of your body. What happens when you're at altitude is that there is less oxygen. So with less oxygen, your body needs to produce more red blood cells to provide the oxygen that your body needs to continue the climb. And that is what essentially is happening when you're getting used to the altitude. So as we're going up this ladder, you're going to have to adjust to the different altitude each time. And this has been the highest altitude that we get to in our work, which is the crown chakra. And this is the crown chakra day, Spirit Sunday. And this is the crown chakra day on the crown chakra week. We've essentially been doing a 7-week ascension, a 7-week mountain climb, if you will. And in that process, there's going to be a lot of adjusting to altitude. So if you are one of those people who've been suffering like us, then just know that's part of the process. What's really fun is that Nikki and I have been kind of going back and forth on what it is that we want to do when we get done with the workshop and as we move into our next phase. And one of the things we talked about doing was, now that we've ascended all the way up here to the crown chakra, to go back and do another series just like this one, but where we're coming from the crown chakra down into the root chakra. So essentially we're doing a manifestation
We're
series.
bringing it down
Right.
instead of climbing up. So when we climb up, what that view is on the top of that mountain, we get, or in storytelling, we get a certain perspective, or we get a certain elixir. We get an awareness.
Very much like the journey of the hero. If you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, he talks about the journey of the hero, and the goal is to get the elixir and bring it back to the tribe. So essentially what we've done is gone up here to get the elixir. So we're halfway, we're only halfway, believe it or not, through our journey.
Please stop.
The next step is to go back down, bring the elixir back to the tribe, or if you use
Or bring the elixir back to your body. So
Yes.
make it an
making it
embodied,
real.
make it an
Totally.
embodied thing. So if
And in that case, your body's the tribe. We're the same,
Exactly.
right? Your body is what's reaping
The
the benefits
world.
of your journey. Yeah, and you can, I mean,
and you radiate out to your community.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. When you do the inner work, what I found is when you do the inner work, that anyone that is connected into your heart field, anyone that you've ever cared about, it reverberates like a ripple effect. And that's funny because that's what the intensity card
Right.
said. It's a ripple effect to each one. And the closer you are to people, when you do the inner work, that's who get the main ripple.
Totally.
So your immediate family and your immediate inner circle of friends, and then beyond that is lineage and family members, and then colleagues.
yes.
So it's super important when we do this work and when we embody it, you become that new frequency, and anybody that comes inside of your field will get that vibration or frequency, like we've been working on with the bowls.
Literally
You become
working
the
on
frequency
yeah.
of that thing. So,
Right.
so just know that, and it also might cause a ripple effect with your relationships. And when you go through an ascension
yeah.
process, sometimes you lose friends. I know that sounds harsh, but it's a natural process. I think at this point, I've been doing this work for over 15 years,
Yep.
and I'm like, God, do I have to lose somebody else?
Yeah.
And once you get to a certain level, people start evolving with you.
Right.
That's why we have rebirths of our relationship all the time,
Totally.
because we have to always be willing to do the work together, so we
Yeah.
grow.
And if
together.
people fall away from you, it's not necessarily a permanent thing. They may
Or
be
personal.
falling away from you to get their own process and get to the level that you've done a lot of work. And that doesn't necessarily only mean spiritual work. I mean, if you've done physical work, it's hard to hang out with people who used to drink beer and eat fried food because you've done all this physical work and you don't want to drag yourself back down into eating the stuff that made you, overweight to begin with. So
Well,
you can
with-
really, any part of the process.
Yeah, well, with Alcoholics Anonymous, right? You have to let go of a circle of friends because you don't want to stay in that frequency or
Right.
vibration. You don't want to go to a bar if you're trying to get sober.
Right.
It's the same idea.
Well, that's a really good analogy because I have a lot of friends who are have gone through Alcoholics Anonymous and are sober. They have no problem going to bars now, but they've done it for 10, 15, 20 years and got to the point where they can be around alcohol without consuming it. And so much like that process, if you get to the point where you're going through an ascension process, like what we've been doing the past 7 weeks, and you feel like other things are falling away, it's only doing that to protect you so that you can solidify the new
Cultivate.
version of yourself, so that when you re-immerse yourself into the other people and the other energies, you're able to protect yourself and keep that true, the honesty that you've essentially developed during that time period, so that you don't fall back into old habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like when a sprout finally gets above the ground,
Right.
you need to protect it
Yes.
at first.
You don't put it right out into the garden. You keep it in a little pot. You keep it safe. You let it get strong, and then you put it back in the garden where it can thrive around the other plants. And I think that this week has been a perfect example of what we're talking about right now. It's been this idea of change, newness, rebirth, and this idea of aloneness, and how we need to keep ourselves protected now that we have this new skin, because this new skin is very vulnerable. It's very influential, or easily influenced, I should say. It's not ready to take on battles yet. It's still just becoming itself.
Can't go through a hurricane yet.
Right.
Right. So, and I want you to know something about this process when losing friends and stuff. There's something that happens within the self. Sometimes you reject people because they are a mirrored frequency for what you used to be, and you might go into a state of judgment or rejection of other people.
Yes.
Just because I know that when I let go of a friend many years ago, everything that I used to love about her made me like so irritated. I couldn't be near her. And it was because she was the representation of my old self. And you go into this kind of repulsive energy. It's just to keep
totally
you safe.
Natural.
And it's not, don't judge yourself or judge them. Just go, okay, I'm being pushed away from that because I'm not supposed to go back into the hole.
And just realize that you're not actually repulsed by that person. You're repulsed by the energy that they represent, the old version of yourself.
Your old skin.
And so, yeah, old skin's a perfect example. We talked about that a lot this week, this idea of a snake shedding its skin. So if it was almost like the idea that the snake has now shed its skin, then it turns back around and it looks at the old skin and it goes, ew, I can't believe I did that. Skin. But that skin is what got you to where you are now. So eventually you'll come full circle and be able to honor that as well. But in this particular time period, you'll probably be experiencing that revulsion or disgust with that old energy or that old self. And that's completely normal. It's completely natural. Just don't make it mean more than it does.
And it's a natural process. So if you've ever done that, if you were, you know what, I did get repulsed by someone, that it kind of explains what that is, right? So it's any ascension process that you go through.
Well, go ahead. Well, before we go into the next week, let's solidify the energy of our past week, right? So every Spirit Sunday, what we've been doing is doing a really quick review of what we went through in the past week, and then solidifying that energy, essentially putting the period at the end of the sentence, and then opening up the energy for the next week. And it's going to be a little different this time because we're not going into another week.
We're going to seal and solidify.
Right. We want to seal our entire 7-week process here. And for those of you who might be coming into it just now, and you're like, oh, I missed out on all these 7 weeks, we got all the videos up. Just go back in time.
And just go
and watch it from the beginning, and you will go through the process. That's exactly why we did it.
You have a free workshop. You have a free 7-week workshop you can take at your own process and go all the way up the ladder.
And this is an opportunity because when we do come back and we do our manifestation 7-week process, you'll have already gotten to there, so you can come down with us. So it'll be really good timing either way. Anyways, the point being is let's talk about what we went through in the past week, this whole idea of change and rebirth and this divine masculine coming into its own. One of the things we did, our first cards we pulled were change and awareness. So just really Monday was all about becoming aware that you are a new version of yourself.
And be gentle with the new awarenesses because they're still bubbling up to the surface. They're not fully solidified, like we said. But as you're starting to get that glimpse of yourself, that's what you have to nurture.
Exactly. Like a little baby trying to learn how to walk. You just got to let it go through its process and just be encouraging. Then we got into politics and transformation. That was our Tantric Tuesday. So that was all that snake energy that we talked about. That shedding of the skin, the getting rid of the old stuff. The politics was definitely representative of this facade or this fakeness that we were putting up that we thought people wanted to see. And then we have this new transformation that's taking place, revealing this beautiful but fragile thing that's been created, but now it's a more honest version of the self.
Mm-hmm. And then we went into innocence and aloneness, finding our own purity and really honoring, checking in, trusting ourselves, being our light that guides our way through. And
it's almost like when you start a fire, because it's the solar plexus chakra, when you start a fire, it's like these little teeny flames and a little bit of smoke, and you have to give it a little gentle blow and try to get it to catch. And then as it starts to catch fire, the small little twigs catch on fire, the kindling, and then the bigger sticks, and then eventually you can start putting logs on the fire. But this process, we're still just that little spark, that little bit of fire that's just getting started that you need to be very gentle with. Fire is extremely powerful when it's raging and it has lots of fuel, but when it's just getting started, it takes attention and patience. And then we got into
the heart chakra.
Yeah, the heart chakra gets us, man. I don't know what's going on, but we got the thunderbolt, aka the Tawa. And that is where things are just being ripped away from you. You've got this beautiful tower of power that you've built around you, protecting you from the world. And now it's just God comes in and just boom, strikes it with lightning, and the whole thing just comes shattering down around you.
To bring us into better harmony. Yes. So the heart chakra is called unstruck because the actual heart chakra is kind of more linked to our soul.
Right.
And it's unstruck because there's nothing that can actually make your
You can't
heart
touch me. You can't
pure.
touch us. Don't.
So when you go through a heartbreak, it's not actually your heart breaking. It's the walls around our heart, that those walls
the
of protection.
tower we built around our heart.
Exactly. That is crumbling to make us more of ourselves.
Yes.
So the grief process in itself is grieving those protection, feeling very heartbreak.
Naked.
You feel very vulnerable, right? And so when we feel vulnerable, it actually brings us closer to who we truly are, our true harmony, our true alignment, what our heart actually wants, not what our mind thinks our heart wants, but really brings us into a state of more pure, unconditional love for ourselves and other people.
Yeah, and then we get into the honesty, right? That throat chakra. We have created this new harmony, and now what are we gonna do with it, right? So we need to get quiet and get the guidance that we're seeking, and that guidance is going to come in if we're quiet, if we're silent, if we remove ourselves from all those other things, so that we can be in a place to receive that guidance, so that we can be receptive to the guidance. We've torn away all the things that were distracting us and blocking us. Now it's time to just get quiet and listen.
And with that can come that control paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
That has come up for me a lot this week. Oh crap. I'm dealing with this lesson of faith, and a dear friend of mine and a client called me out. She goes, you can't control your faith. You're kind of doing this thing like, this is as much faith as I'm willing to go through.
Right.
So it's still control, right?
That's very much part of that ascension process, right? Your faith is ascending as well, right? Your ability to allow control to be given up, it gets better. And that's Nikki's version of dealing with this altitude sickness. Her altitude sickness shows up in a form of control, and so does yours.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. I know mine does. And that can really spin you out. So you have to be very, very patient with yourself during that process. And that's why we want you to sit, be alone, be quiet, and just listen.
And notice, that angel and the devil. It's like, hey, I'm trying to give you guidance here. No, I have to be in control. Everything's going to fall apart. All the things. Right?
Yep.
And so we have to just kind of tune in and kind of let those voices go and really tune into that purity that's already within you.
Yeah.
And then that moves us into when we went here to the creativity. And this is about, we didn't want to push. So creativity, and we're going to have a rebirth, but we had to allow the process to kind of birth itself, where we didn't want to have that urge to push too hard too soon, where we want the birth process. We can't force the flower to blossom, right? So we have to allow ourselves to blossom. We have to allow ourselves to bloom and listen to when we need to push, when it's necessary, but also not exhaust ourselves.
Right. Which brings us to today. We're finally there. We have resisted our urge to push, but now we're crowning. Yeah, get it? Because it's the crown chakra and the birth thing. It's a crown. All right.
So we have the Master card for the end of this journey. And the Master is not about mastering over people. It's about the mastery of self.
Oh, yeah.
And your presence itself is the thing that radiates people to want to be in your presence. So it's not about having control or anything like that. It's more about this self-mastery, being really comfortable.
Yeah, they in Zen tradition, there's a joke that your family won't appreciate you when you're a Buddhist, but they will if you're a Buddha.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's this idea that, the practice and all the accoutrement that comes along with being spiritual or being Zen is not the point. Those are just window dressings. When you are truly Zen, which just literally translates as aware, you're literally aware, it just radiates. You don't have to have a robe. You don't have to light incense. You don't have to sit for hours and hours of meditation. You just are that.
Totally, and that's the goal. And that makes us kind of this conductor, or the person who's in the driver's seat, right? We become the driving point. And then we have this intensity, and this intensity talks about how now the more you know the self, the more pointed direction you know where you're going, what you're doing.
This card's really big for me because a lot of this process for me has been about trying to find some sort of direction, some sort of a guidance, and I feel like it's finally come online. We have that direction. We have that focal point. We have that, because I'm a Taurus, and my energy tends to be very much like a freight train. It's really hard to get me going, but once I get going, I'm going in one direction. And dear God, don't get in my way, because I'm going this way, and I don't like being derailed. That's a huge, huge pet peeve of mine. Now I finally get the energy that I really enjoy, which is this directive energy, and then we pull the We Are the World card, which I see this as the passengers on the freight train, right? You've created your freight train, and then there's going to be people who are going to be inspired by your process. What you've been able to accomplish is not a small feat. People will take notice of that, and they will go, wow, how did you do that? And then you're essentially the conductor of the train now. You're the engine that's pulling the train along, and you're like, well, all aboard that's coming aboard, this is the way we're going, and I know because I've been doing this work, and I know where I'm going.
And you find them like-minded, like-souled, like individuals that want to come on that journey with you, that you can learn from. It's all like the inner mastery. We're all taking ownership of a certain sense of inner mastery that we all can attain and become.
Right. So let's solidify that rebirth energy that we went through last week. We're going to essentially close the chapter on that before we move into what we're going on from here. So what I want you guys to do is, if you can, try to chant along with us. The sound for the crown chakra is Om. So that's a pretty traditional sound there. And we're going to do 7 breaths and solidify the energy, not just of this last week, but of all 7 weeks.
And I want you to really to feel into that master energy. Be in the now. The intensity card talks about being in the now. The only way through, or the only direction, is the here and the now, right? Yeah. And so we want to go into that state of mastery. So if you can find, not just in the heart, just see if you can align with yourself and really hold that inner mastery that you have.
Yeah, and if you like imagery the way I do, use the image of the train conductor. So essentially these last 7 weeks have been building the tracks. They have been laying down the tracks so that the train can go, right? And you know where you're going because the tracks have been laid. So all you have to do now is fire up the engine, feed coal into the steam. I don't know what kind of train you had. It might be an electric train. It might be an old steam engine train. But the point being is we're going to get that engine all primed up and ready, and then we're going to hit that track with a full head of steam.
We are one, and we are one, and we are one, and we are one. We are one, and we are one. We are one singular individual, but together we are also one, from the same source, from the same energetic field. We are whole. Together, we are whole as an individual. We are one, and we are one. And it is done. It is done. It is done. It is done.
All right. Well, that
It is
was
done.
a lot of energy there.
Yes.
7 weeks worth of preparation to get to this moment. If you haven't already congratulated yourself, please do so now. You have our permission.
Even if you did some small amount of the work, and again, if you wanted to go back to our YouTube channel and do all 7 weeks, that's free content. That's a lot of content that you get to climb these ladders. Now, what's good is you could do it on your own time. So if things are getting kind of sticky, but if you're committing to it, you're going to push through that resistance.
And another way to think about this is like that altitude adjustment, right? The base camp concept. So let's say, for instance, you made it this far, right? You made it to week 5 and you're just like, I can't do it anymore. My job's gotten too crazy. My kids are nuts, whatever issue may be happening to you. I'm not making enough money. I really need to focus on my career. Whatever it may be, wherever you made it, that's okay. That you're getting used to the altitude of that level, right? So hit the pause button, attend to the things that you need to in your life, and then get back to the work. Pick up where you left off, or maybe go a step behind to remember where you are. But you don't have to do this all sequentially in order. It doesn't have to be every day of the week. You can do it as you need to. The process is there. It's laid out in front of you. You just need to remember to be patient with yourself and realize that it might not all happen in the timing that we laid it out. We laid it out in a 7-week process. For you, it might be a 7-month process or a 7-year process. It really doesn't matter, because as long as you're working, you're going to see the benefits of your work. You're going to see the growth. You're going to see the evolution. So be patient with yourself. Take your time. Be kind, and know that as long as you're doing something, that you're going to grow.
So what do we want to do with the gold bowl?
Well, we are moving. I kind of like the idea of hanging out here and enjoying the view. So we talked about the idea of this ascension process that we're climbing a mountain, right? So when you get to the top of the mountain, what do? You enjoy the view. You take it all in. You take pictures. You congratulate yourself. You pop a bottle of champagne and you celebrate. Whatever that celebration of achievement is for you, I want that to be the energy of this last guided meditation with the bowl. We've got our golden bowl here, and it is a very powerful bowl. It is there. We've been using it to open up the energy of the next week, and since we're not going directly into another week of work, we're just going to allow this bowl to keep us charged, keep us happy, keep us motivated, and really just take it all in. Enjoy yourself.
I actually want to use, me and Ryan went to a concert last night for our date night.
We did.
And the closing band was live, 90s, alternative band. And Ed said at his last song, he said, like a cosmic meditation, this is a blessing, a prayer for each and every one of you, for happiness, for enjoyment of your life, for enlightenment, and for bliss. So with his words that he said yesterday, this is also when we're on the top of the mountain, we're sending out our elixir to you, everything that we learned in our journey, and hopefully you can get that embodied into yourself, and we get your lessons as well.
Right.
So let's also, as we're celebrating up here, we'll make a prayer to We Are the World, to the collective, for all the things that we have learned, making it a cosmic meditation for all of us.
Yeah, another way to look at this is like when the Apollo missions went to the moon, they put a sign that they've been there, right? They took the American flag and they put it on the moon and said, we've been here. And that was proof, right? So while we're here up in the mountain, maybe there's something that you've brought along with you on the journey that is either your proof that you made it, or something you want to let go of, something that you brought with you that needs to be let go of. And
that was holding you back.
This peak of the mountain is a good sacred place for you to release that. So whatever that looks like for you, as long as you're doing it with the heart of celebration and accomplishment and gratitude for a job well done. So as we go into the meditation process, remember we are going to do all of the sounds of the chakras as we go through. The first chakra is Lam, then we have Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham, Sham, and finish with Om. So we're going to do that 7 times through. If you can do it all in one breath, congratulations, you're a good breather. And if you can't, then take multiple breaths. No big deal.
Yeah. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Pyo Namaha Hari Om. It is done. It is done. It is done. It is done. That is a prayer that brings blessings and happiness to all sentient beings. So blessings to you. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to go back and do the work again and again and again, you can go back to the YouTube channel and start wherever you want. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and we will see you when we get back from the workshop. Have a great little rest period. Enjoy the view.
Enjoy the view and take it all in. You did a great job. You made it. Thank you for allowing me and Nikki to be part of your journey. We really sincerely appreciate all of you. We're grateful for you and this very arduous process. And we're going to enjoy the view with you. And remember, we'll be back to help descend back down the mountain and manifest what it is that you were able to achieve. So while you're up here enjoying the scenery, take in that elixir, whatever that elixir is for you, whatever lesson you've learned from this process, and remember that you're going to be bringing that back down the mountain with you later.
All the things, and the elixir might be a lot of things.
Yeah, it might
faith
be
and communication with Brian, all these things.
Letting go of control.
Yeah, letting go of control. So all the things. So be patient with yourself in the process. Assimilation is also a journey within itself.
Oh yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh yes.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We will see you very soon. Have a great week. Namaste.